All right, welcome everybody to the Wrestling Related Podcast, where the topics are related to wrestling, and the three of us are related to each other. I'm Josh. That guy down there is Dustin. He's my older brother, and that one is Corey, and he's my older brother. Hey, fellas, how you doing?
Good.
What's up?
Okay, so we've got WrestleMania actually starting tonight.
Been talking already.
Because we're recording this Saturday morning, and we're going to upload it. And for those that may be catching this, it's the first of these podcasts. We're going to give our WrestleMania predictions here in a little bit. But before we get to WrestleMania predictions and start to go through that, we're going to kind of touch base on some stuff we were talking just before we hit record and started this. This week, because Corey has kind of been out of the loop a little bit, would you say, in wrestling for the last 5 years?
I have been...
Longer?
5 years. Oh, yeah. Like 10 plus. So I have been tentatively watching commentary and news of big happenings or catching somebody's comments on Twitter or things of that nature. Just little nuggets here and there. I am mildly familiar with what's happening in the current product, overly educated about things that happened prior to me dropping off, like drastically. Once upon a time, and Josh can attest to this, I was watching somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 hours of wrestling per week. So a little bit obsessive. I would search and watch like 8 hours of Mexican and Japanese and all from all the territories. Earliest memory with wrestling is on an old black and white TV watching Central States with Harley Race, and Ric Flair was coming in to visit because he was the champion at the time, and Rufus R. Jones and Bulldog Bob
Brown. Yeah.
I knew that would pop, Dustin. But so an obscene amount of wrestling, much to our mother's dismay. But in the last, let's say 10 years or so, probably more, it's been very sporadic.
Yeah.
Life just got in the way, kids and whatnot. And so there's very little time.
To be fair, for those that have kind of been lifelong wrestling fans for, let's say, 20 years plus, they will understand that between about the years of 2010, 2011, and 2017, 18, wrestling was kind of boring. There wasn't a lot of options out there. But then 2019, and this is where I'm not necessarily an AEW fanboy, but I will say that competition breeds success, and the fact that there was actually competition on a national level, everybody stepped up. It wasn't just that AEW brought a product in there. That I don't watch TNA on a regular basis, but when I do catch it, it's like their product has improved from the mid 2010s. WWE's product in the last 2 years is just absolutely insane compared to where they were 5 years ago. It's just so elevating.
So to give context, I think the last storyline that I can wrap my head around that was like, yeah, I no longer care. Y'all are just boring me. I think it was the tail end of the Nexus.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that too. The Nexus.
So it was about that time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like an indie NWO. This is just not amusing anymore. And then we got Superman Cena that is bulletproof, and so he's too OP, and I just And so my interest started waning. However, I will say that when I started seeing news of some of the better indie guys, the TNA guys, like AJ Styles leaving TNA, heading over to Japan, and some of the stuff that was happening with Bullet Club, and then all that leading up to Cody walking away from the Fed, which he was pretty much guaranteed a for life if he wanted it. But walking away from there to do his own thing and to do it his way, and all of a sudden, I started paying a whole lot more attention, not watching the weekly shows per se, but I need to check this out. I need to check that out. A little bit here, a little bit there, just kind of sampling. And I think for the industry, it's been a big shot in the arm, like you were saying, with competition. When you have with everybody having access to the streaming services of having AEW starting with All In, and then a year later or so, then Tony Khan kicking in with all that stuff. Plus, then you have no longer TNA, now Impact, but then you've got the Smashing Pumpkins,
NWA.
Whatever, I can't remember his name, kicking in with the NWA and television there. There it is. Yeah. And then you got New Japan and all the stuff that they've been doing, and all those guys in Bullet Club that just come over, and now you got like, so that's exciting to me.
Well, and that kind of led us into what we were talking about just before we started recording was we had got off on talking about Will Ospreay, and you had mentioned, Corey, that you've just
never watched
seen
a match.
Highlights but have never watched a match, to which Dustin and I were utterly shocked and like, watch something, pick any of his matches. It doesn't really matter. And this is
against
where
Billy Bobby Ganoush.
Yeah, we were starting to talk about
great match
this past week in wrestling, and before we get into going WWE route, the AEW route. I haven't watched SmackDown or the Hall of Fame from last night. I finished up Collision. I didn't watch SmackDown or the Hall of Fame primarily because them Iowa Hawkeyes girls are going to the championship against South Carolina.
Oh, well, good.
So that's gonna
be a game. That's gonna be a good game.
Especially because South Carolina have only had one loss in the last like 2.5 years, and that was from Iowa last year in the Final Four.
So let me just say this as far as basketball goes.
Sunday at 2 p.m.
Well,
it'll be on over at Mom's.
I'll be on the road.
So let's just say this. Have you ever seen a better ending than the end of that Iowa game last night?
No.
I mean, it was just,
it was fantastic. When it comes to that call, okay, here's the deal. Was that there was an illegal screen or a moving screen from the camera, the angle they were showing on ESPN? It did not look like it. It looked very questionable because the arm slightly came out. But when you look at
the end? Oh, it was foul.
But when I looked at the basically the hard cam angle, she definitely shifted her whole body away, stepped over, elbow and shoulder came out. Good call.
Yep.
The only issue was that was like 50 seconds left in the game, if that. It may have been down to like 20 seconds in the game, and that's where it's like nobody wants to see. I think
it was less than that.
Yeah, nobody wants to see an ending on a penalty. However,
then
it wasn't the ending. It wasn't the ending because right after that, Iowa gets the ball back. They wind up fouling Caitlin Clark. They're up by 1. She goes to the free throw, makes the first shot, misses the second one, and then it was UConn failed to rebound.
Yep.
And because they failed to rebound, so it's like you can't say, oh, we lost because of a foul. You could say, oh, you lost because you didn't rebound it. Or you could say, oh, you lost because then when they tried to inbound that foul, Caitlin Clark just bounced it off of Paige Beckett's backside, and then it bounced in out of bounds, which ran the clock down even more. It was a smooth play. Oh,
it was great. It was great.
So smooth.
Loved it.
Oh my gosh! I watched
there was still like 0.8 seconds
like a week ago about somebody doing that like over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was like 1.3 seconds left on the clock, and Caitlin Clark standing here, and Paige Beckers is right in front of her.
She turned
bounces
around.
It off of her back. It drops. Yep. It has to run at least 0.3 seconds off to do that.
Yeah, so it went down to like 0.8 is what they restarted it with. They inbounded it, and the girl that got it just threw it straight up in the air.
Waste a second. It was
great.
It was an exciting finish. But that's why I didn't watch SmackDown. That's why I didn't watch the Hall of Fame. I'll be watching that today. And then after I watch that today, I'll be watching NXT Stand and Deliver. And then I'll be going in and watching WrestleMania Night 1. And then tomorrow, got church. and then we've got a little dinner for
basketball.
And then I'll be watching the championship, and then I'll be watching WrestleMania Night 2. And
So
if I get a
Josh, you'll
chance
sleep
somewhere in
Monday
there,
afternoon.
The what?
So Josh, you'll sleep Monday afternoon.
I'll sleep Monday afternoon, maybe, because I also have to go back and watch Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor.
Oh, that was
Because I saw a clip about that, and it was like, ooh, spoiler.
Okay. So I'm not gonna give any spoilers or anything like that. But here's what I will say about the Hall of Fame induction last night. I watched it this morning. I will say, with all due respect to everybody that was nominated and inducted into the Hall of Fame, much respect to all of you. There was The Rock's grandmother, Muhammad Ali, Bull. What's her last name? Josh, help me out. The Japanese wrestler.
Bull Nakano.
Yes.
From Japan.
Yeah.
She was inducted. Paul Heyman was inducted. So here's what I'm going to say. Paul Heyman opened up the induction. He did not. He makes a comment right off the beginning. He says he did not want to write out his speech because he wanted to feel the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It was by far the best induction speech I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I had
more than Roddy Piper.
I had wiping tears from my eyes. I was laughing. I was getting, the Rock chills on my arm. It was amazing speech.
Yeah.
And he gave respect to those that deserved respect.
Good.
Yeah, it was a great speech.
And just for fairness of the other inductees, you missed two. You missed Thunderbolt Patterson and
that was good too.
The U.S. Express of Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this week I caught up on Collision, or not Collision. Well, I caught Collision from last week, which, by the way, Collision of last week, you got Adam Copeland, Edge in AEW now, and he's the TNT champion, and he opens the Cope Invitational, which is open to anybody. Come on in, challenge me for it. The Cope Open.
Yep.
And
there you go, Dust.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. So, and then
I've seen his spears. I'd break more ribs.
And then all of a sudden, music plays, and you see the look on the crowd like, what is this? And then the lyric, always ready, and out comes
Matt Cardona,
the Deathmatch King.
Yeah.
The indie superstar. Because, we can talk about how Cody was revolutionizing and, the Young Bucks, the indies. In my personal opinion, Matt Cardona set the stage before anybody. When he came out and was doing that internet championship
with his own belt that he bought on his own money
and forced WWE's hand to actually acknowledge him, and he was the one that started this whole
really do social media.
Right. He was the one that started it, where now you've got all of these wrestlers that have finally, especially in WWE, worked out agreements with their streaming and how they do that. AEW, they don't care. Do whatever you want on your own time. We don't really care.
Right.
It was Matt Cardona that started that whole thing. And so he comes out, one of the biggest pops I have ever seen.
Good.
And dude, that was a match. And he's not under AEW contract. He's only been there one or two other times. I think maybe 2 times he's appeared in AEW over the last several years. And he's just chosen, I want to remain independent. I want to be able to go anywhere at any point in time and just kind of blaze my own path. And super successful with it. So then here comes this opportunity that Tony Khan is like, hey, are you interested? And that was one of Matt Cardona's dream matches. So he's like, yeah, let's make this happen. And it was good.
Thank you, Chelsea Green. Because if you listen to the Chris Van Vliet interview with Chelsea Green, she said, I told him when he left the Fed, he said, I told him, you need to just turn around and get every booking humanly possible in every organization, every indie show, every possible thing. You just get your face out there. And he did it. Yeah. He listened to his wife.
Going to make money.
There you go. Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he one of the Edge's
Edge heads.
little, yeah,
Yeah.
Trainees.
one of his little copycat drones.
Yeah, because he was doing an interview recently, and I don't remember where I heard it or maybe
He had
read
his
it.
two
And
sidekicks or something.
yep, and he had said he thought that was going to lead to a match between them and Edge in the Fed, like they would eventually turn.
Okay.
Which, I mean, that's straight out of WWE scripting, at least under McMahon era. That yes, this is definitely going to happen. So he thought it was, but then he gets released, and then when he comes back, Edge is injured, so Edge is out. And then he gets released, Matt Cardona gets released again, and then Edge comes back, and he's like, this is never going to happen. But then Edge leaves and goes to AEW, and he's like, now there's a chance. Because it's like,
So
I've
you're
worked with them
saying
before.
There's a chance.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy.
Fair enough.
But again, pulling it back full circle, watch Dynamite. And here's where I was going to say, Corey. Dynamite had a match. It was the Battle of the Wills. You get Will Ospreay versus Powerhouse Will Hobbs. Their styles do not complement each other at all.
Okay.
Not complementary. And that match was so good.
Yeah, and with all
Those
due
make for
respect
really
to Will
good matches,
Hobbs,
though. Look at Undertaker and Michaels. I mean, those styles are not, but oh my gosh, like top 5 greatest matches.
It
They
can
actually
be
have 2 of the top 5 greatest matches at WrestleMania.
Yep, it can be done. It takes the big guy to be able to actually move and understand how little guys move.
Yep.
And it takes a little guy to understand how to sell, to put over the big guy, and to get his offense in a believable way. And that's the thing I will say about Will Ospreay. No matter what I watch, yes, he's flashy. Yes, he's flying all over the place. He's called the aerial assassin. Now, he's got a lot of heavyweight moveset that he's incorporated in the last couple years. But it doesn't really matter who he's up against. He highlights them. He puts them over in the match. And
That's the name of the game.
Just, I think the guy's got doesn't he have like the most 5-star matches out of anybody, which it's Dave Meltzer's 5-star rating. I know it can be debatable.
Don't care.
At the same time, when I look at his 5-star ratings, I'm like, yeah, the ones that you say are 5 stars, I would say are 5 stars.
They're great matches. Sure.
I think he's also missing some because the fact that Kurt Angle has never had a 5-star is just
wrong.
That
I mean,
Come on.
Angle against Guerrero at WrestleMania 20. And what?
Correct.
Huh?
One of the greats.
But then again, you gotta, and when you have one person, so my issue with having one person to put these stars on it, or one person, sorry Vince, that would sit there and determine whether somebody is pushed or not. I mean, you get somebody that puts their own personal take on it. Oh, this guy bumped into me, we'll fire him. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Someone bumped into you. Get over yourself. Oh, well, that guy didn't give me the scoop on the thing that I wanted. Okay, so his 5-star match is like a 4.2 or whatever. Yeah, who cares?
So I will say this with Hobbs,
just say it's a great match. It's a must see. Okay, cool. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm not a huge Will Hobbs has had a hard time with having smooth wrestling matches. They've been really choppy. They've been you can tell where he's thinking too much instead of just reacting, instead of just being in the moment. He tries to overthink it, and some of his matches have been really hard to watch. I could tell watching that Ospreay and Hobbs match, Ospreay was making most of the calls in that match.
Oh yeah,
and I'll argue that whole thing all the time, but it was so smooth. I mean, even there was like one little moment where you could see that Hobbs almost looked borderline lost, but then as Ospreay was coming up, there was some type of a communication, and all of a sudden it just clicked right back into his head again, and everything took off again. And it was such a smooth match. Probably, in my opinion, the best Hobbs match I've seen to date.
It was good. It was like It was very good. It kept me, and I was exhausted watching it, and it still kept me entertained. It's one of the few, if I have a critique about AEW, they do the join us with picture in picture as we go to the break. And I appreciate that they're not cutting away from the matches. At the same time, the commercials, they do what they're intended to do, and they distract me from the matches. So more often than not, I'm skipping through even the commercial break because I'm just so programmed with WWE television that they're going to break and then they're coming back. So I'm not worried about that. This was one that I was watching picture in picture through the break. I really
It's a great
enjoyed
idea.
It's so good. And I know
As long
WWE's
as
done it
as long as the
bit.
guys as long as the guys stick to it,
Yeah.
and just continue to work the match instead of, get word from the ref, oh, it's commercial break. Okay, so let's go to a rest.
Yeah, well, and I mean,
You know
they
what I
do
mean?
some of the normal break downtime stuff, but they still put in things. There have been I can't remember how many times
That's
they have
great,
come
though.
back from break, and they're like, "Hey, if you missed it while we were
case
at
you
break,
missed
this
it.
happened." Yeah,
Perfect. And that makes people tune in to
Yep.
the picture in picture, but then makes you kind of wonder on a business
Yeah.
side how that really affects the advertising
although
dollars.
part of me wishes that
You're
I
taking
had.
away from my commercial.
Yeah, part of me wishes I was using like the Fight app or Triller app, whatever it's called, and I had the AEW Plus. That way, I could listen to the
Commentary.
ridiculous commentary that those three have during the commercial breaks, because I only see clips of those after the fact. Because you got Taz and Excalibur and Tony Schiavone that are cracking jokes at each other during the break more often than not, and it's just, I don't know. Maybe
So
one
was
of these
it-
days I'll pay for it.
Speaking of AEW and Dynamite, was it Dynamite where it was the best friends against the
Yes.
Young Bucks?
Yep. Best friends, Young
Um,
Bucks.
Greatest predictable swerve that I saw at the end.
Correct.
on
It was
that.
predictable.
It was great. It was
It
great.
was well executed.
It needed to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened? Basically, Orange Cassidy and
Thank you.
Trent Beretta were the tag team as the best friends because Chucky Taylor was on the sidelines. Why is that's a question I have? Why is Chuck Taylor always on the sidelines? Is he hurt or is?
I was thinking he had an injury within the last year. I can't remember for sure. But yeah, Chuck Taylor was out there with Sue, Trent's mom.
Sue, Trent's mom, yeah. And anyway, Trent got pinned 1, 2, 3, and afterwards, best friends come in and they get ready to do the old best friends got a hug in the middle of the ring, and as Orange Cassidy,
You got to give the fans what they want.
Got to give them, and they gave me what I wanted because Trent Beretta ended up just drilling Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, and Trent's one of those guys that has so much potential.
A lot of potential.
It's like he's setting on a push, and as soon as he gets it, he'll show up because he can work every style.
Yep.
And he's exciting to watch. But no, going back to the Will Ospreay thing, yeah.
How is Chuck Taylor as far as working? Is his biggest hindrance just the look?
I would say so. I would say in that roster, he just doesn't quite have the same look.
Deceptively athletic.
He is, yeah, very much like I was back in the day.
He's the vanilla ice cream. He's the vanilla ice cream. He's ice cream. He's vanilla ice cream. He's ice cream. He tastes good, but it's just like he's nothing special. He doesn't have the He's solid.
He's a solid worker. Like he is a very solid worker.
He's a good hand.
Guys in the business, sometimes they can take that as a diss. It's not. It's never meant to be.
Hey, there's a lot of guys that get their 15 minutes of fame that couldn't wrestle their way out of wet paper sack.
And at the same time, I think he's one of those that he seems like he's got something yet that's untapped with Chuck Taylor. Like I really feel he's one of those guys that if he finds the right character tweak, it doesn't matter what he looks like and people will rally behind him because there's just something about him that even though you're looking at him in there with, Rocky Romero or Orange Cassidy or Trent Beretta, and you're seeing that, it's like, okay, he may be in the number 4 position of the best friends, but at the same time, it's like he could easily jump to the top, but there's just something missing and you're not sure what it is.
And it's my curiosity and my need of trying to fill in the gaps of how somebody could go to that next level. So,
right.
When we were doing our thing, we saw that in a lot of people. Dude, try this. What about that? And hey, if you did this, and from the start of trying to take somebody and teach them how to kick or how to punch for an entire afternoon, it was like those little things. Do you think that are the best friends that over right now that they're kind of sitting on? Let's not split this yet. Are they that over?
It needs to split.
It needs a split.
It needs to split, in my opinion.
It's played out.
It's hard, yeah.
Yep.
It's hard because they are that good and they are over and the crowd loves them. Like, I'm excited to see how this is going to turn, but they're not so over that if you split them, the crowds are going to rebel. It's not the New Day. Like, if you split up the New Day, I think the crowd is just going to rebel against that. It's like, no.
Are they they're that in love with them right now that they haven't...
The crowd's
They haven't got to a point...
Yeah, not the point where this is them and you can never mess with it, but they're getting close in my opinion, so I think this is about perfect timing for it, especially because they've kind of been mid-card in the tag scene. And like enough
so they haven't reached a point where it's like the fans are going and the diehard fans are going, you know what, I've seen this knock joke over and over.
No, it's not that far yet. No.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not jobbers, but they are a notch above. They're not the champions, but they're the ones that if they're in a match against somebody who is over, you know that they're going to lose the match.
And at the same time, if they do happen to pull out the win, it's believable enough that people are like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but at the same time, not really surprised.
On an indie baby scene, or heel, or is it
baby the whole time?
Have they been both? Baby the whole time? Oh,
I don't think they've been face that I can remember, or heel that I can remember.
Oh, make them go.
I think they were
heel
right off that towards the beginning. I think they were for a little bit.
Okay, maybe just not since Orange Cassidy's been apart.
Not since Orange Cassidy, no.
Oh,
so maybe originally Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta might have been when it was just the two of them.
Who's tag champs right now?
Well, there was a moment when they brought in Rocky Romero that Rocky was more heel.
Correct.
Rocky was playing heel. And they've had some injury bugs. Like Trent was out for quite a while as well.
Yeah, the neck surgery. Yep.
So
I don't
know. There are no tag champs right
tag
now.
Champs.
No tag champs. They're having a tournament. Nope, they're having a tournament
because the last tag champs was Sting and Darby Allin, and because Sting retired,
they're doing a tournament.
The belts
that way they can drag it out a little bit. We talked about that.
So just for our own amusement, Corey, hold on. Just for our own amusement, you asked about Chuck Taylor. From our indie scene, here's where I put Chuck Taylor. Chuck Taylor is, shout out, Matt Ruska. He could work.
Oh.
But he just didn't he got to the point that, it was there. It just wasn't the big push type of thing. But he could work any of us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of see. I
still remember in training when Ruska hit me with the twist of fate and then got scolded by Travis for drilling me. And I was like, what happened? What happened? Why is he in trouble? What did he do?
Shout out to TS.
Yeah. What happened?
And to add some context for those catching the podcast, this might help, especially when you hear us kind of critiquing things with some inside. We're not just smart marks. We're kind of smart marks now because we're not actually doing it. However, each of us spent several years in the independent scene around Iowa and the Midwest. Dustin, you entered in what, 99?
99, 2000, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and then when did you retire? I mean,
the first time or the second time or the third time, the Terry Funk time?
We've had some Ric Flair, Terry Funk comebacks, but when you stopped on a regular basis...
it was right before I left to come down south, so it was like 2009.
Yeah, okay.
Roughly.
And then Corey, you got in.
No, you started.
I got in next at 2000.
2 years, a couple of years after.
It was like I think I started training like 6 months after Dustin. And then my first match was like a little over a year after he had started because it was, I want to say like October of 2000 was the first match I had.
And I started the camp after you.
Yeah. Which was, I think it was 01. It was like a year later.
And I'm the ding dong that was at every single one of Dustin's training sessions, every one of Josh's training sessions.
Yep.
And when it gets to a point when I'm critiquing guys that were in Dustin's training group, because they're like, how did that not work? Because the trainer was busy and they just asked me, I don't get it. Why did I know you did this and that?
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, screw it. Just get in.
And at the time, around the Midwest scene, the fact that we were trained by TS Aggressor, trained by Brad Reagans, like that was the fact you threw TS's name out there and people knew in this area. And they're like, oh, I mean, to the point where I was down at one of Harley Race's shows and Trevor Murdoch comes up. I wasn't even wrestling. I was just there for ring crew. And Trevor Murdoch comes up after his match and starts asking me to critique his match. And I'm like, why are you asking me? And he's like, well, you're one of TS's students, right? I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's like, then you know. I was like, oh, well, in that case, here's what I saw. Right. It was good. Like even back then, it was like, dude, all this guy needs is for somebody to, in the Fed, to get out of their big guy mentality. And Trevor Murdoch has got the character. And obviously he did. And still
now
does.
You and I bounced out about the same time. Because we were doing the tag team thing with the local belts for 2 years. Back and forth.
I don't know. I went through moments where I had my variation with you and my variation with Terry, and it was like back and forth, and it all merged. I want to say it was around
the very short-lived Freebird thing of all three of us, and
I want to say it was around 08, 09, that area where I really dialed it back. I think I had my match 09. Last for years. I went back one time, I think in 2010, and then didn't get back in the ring for another, 5-6 years. And then it was another 3-4 years after that.
One off here, a one off there.
But on a regular basis.
Reunion show.
Yep. And for those, just for the context, it's like when we're coming at it, we're coming at guys who have hundreds of matches under our belts working across, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Minnesota. I mean, we traveled
don't forget
Midwest.
The Minnesota.
Primarily in Iowa and Minnesota were the main, and we were working at that time.
Weekend Warriors.
And not just working cards with, people that you never heard of. I mean, there's Josh said, Trevor Murdoch, there's Sean Devari, there's, Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, whatever you want to call him. There's
the DiBiase
there's all these
brothers,
different names. The DiBiase
Austin
brothers,
Aries,
absolutely.
Mr. Kennedy. Like guys that have been on that national level.
Delirious.
And, Matt Sydal.
Yeah.
And Brutus the Barber Beefcake and
Perry Saturn.
The Bushwhackers and Perry Saturn and Mean Gene Okerlund. I mean, Sonny Ono.
Potty Mouth.
Yeah.
And of course, several matches, for Harley Race himself and his organization.
Yeah.
WLW.
So lots of guys out there. We've got some experience. Obviously, we didn't make it to the big leagues. Otherwise, you would kind of recognize us a little bit more. But I had heard somebody in a recent interview, because they were talking, and it was one of the guys that had made it to the Fed and had a good career. And I think it was on the Chris Van Beet podcast. But they were asking him, where do you define success? Is success going to TNA or AEW or New Japan or WWE? Is that what success is? And they replied back, no, success is doing what you love at a level that is sustainable for you. And whatever that looks like. For some people, success means they're making the money. For other people, it just means I'm doing this on a regular basis and I love it. And that's the hard part about where is success defined.
Sure.
And all the indie stories and horror stories you hear about making, $20, been there, done that. Sometimes not getting paid at all, been there, done that. You pay your dues. Other times,
more guys in the locker room than more guys in the locker room than the crowd.
Yeah.
And the promoter coming out and saying, you know what? I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Get with somebody and do whatever you want to do, as much or as little as you want. And
and even to a point where we weren't just the guys in the ring, we were the guys behind the scenes promoting shows as well. So
Yeah.
we've got a
How
little
many-
bit of
how
experience,
many
and
of-
that's where we're coming at.
How many have promoted a show? How many have refereed? How many have
Just been
sold
ring crew.
tickets, taken concessions, ring crew
Yeah.
only?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean,
How many was sitting in the audience when the promoter walks up to you and says, "Hey, you got any gear with you? I just need you to do a run-in today."
Yep. Yeah, that was the one thing that I think Trav TS had taught us early on was, well, it's Matt Cardona's line: always ready, always be ready. You never know when. And so yeah.
Well, and that's funny because the one of them that I was talking about was it was the 3X match. They had Brian against Billy Gunn, and I'm sitting in the audience, and the promoters came up, says, "Dush, you got your gear with you?" I'm like, "I got a pair of gym shorts and a t-shirt." "Great, I'll find a ski mask. I want you to run in and smack Billy."
Yeah.
Okay. So
There was a name that we forgot to drop that we were on a card with. Billy Gunn, who's still
Billy
doing
Gunn.
it at the top level. And that
Yeah.
match from Wednesday, Billy Gunn versus Jay White, that was good. Jay White has got to be one of my favorite underrated, even though I still think he's underrated. I don't think he's properly rated. He's just good, and he sells like nobody. So good.
And I'm not a huge Jay White fan. I mean, he can wrestle. I'm not a huge fan of him though. I don't know why. There's just something there.
I watched a lot of him back with Bullet Club. So when he came over, I was like, please let him do Bullet Club. And I love that he's doing the Bullet Club Gold version, especially with Billy Gunn's boys, because they needed that little roughness to knock the edge off of them. Although selling, dude, those guys and their selling, like their dad taught them one thing:
They taught him well.
sell your butt off, and they do.
That's the whole thing.
Yep.
Tell
Okay,
the
so-
story. Let's get on topic.
We got WrestleMania coming up. It's being billed as
2 nights.
the biggest WrestleMania of all time. WrestleMania 40. Hard to believe that it's been 40 years of WrestleManias. I've watched most of them. The first one, that happened when I was like, I don't know, 3 years old.
I think Corey was like, what, 22, 23 at that time?
I think so.
Yeah.
Which
But
makes you 20.
I went back and watched most of them, other than what I'm going to call the dark era from about like 2011 to 2014, 15. I don't think I
Who's-
went back and watched those.
Who's the champs during the Dark Era?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Because after I got out of wrestling and stopped doing it, I basically cut ties with it. I had referred to it as a friend Scott McClin had said, it's that ex-girlfriend that you just don't want to be around anymore. So it was like we had a good run, but I don't want to rehash memories. And so I'd kind of left with it. But then when my son Logan, when he was kind of growing up, it was like, hey, he was really into wrestling, been seeing clips, seeing stuff on TV, and it was like, let's start watching a little bit. And I think, was it 2014 when the Hardys came back? Was that WrestleMania? It was like WrestleMania 33 or something like that, 34. And they made that surprise appearance. I'm pretty sure that was like the first WrestleMania back, and it was about that time that we actually started watching it again.
So did you just pick back up, or did you catch up?
No, just pick back up. I was like, it's wrestling.
So you still
and
have
there
no
are
idea what happened before that.
only what little bit has been filled in. Because like when there was Edge and the Edgeheads, I don't remember that. But over the time, somebody mentions something, I see the clips, and it's like, oh, it kind of fills in the blank a little bit.
So kind of what I've been doing for the last however long.
And so that's kind of what I
here,
did.
clip.
But it was like I had a clean break, and then we fast forward and we skip a few years, and then just jump right in. And when I had questions, I would go back and kind of fill things in. But WWE does such a good job of telling stories, especially through commentary, that when there's a key pivotal element that it needs context for the current situation, they mention it. Like Michael Cole, I remember early on hating Michael Cole. And I think it's just because I had so much love for Lawler and JR that it was like, he's trying to take their spot and I didn't like it. But now I can appreciate Michael Cole, and it's like, he's actually one of the best commentators in the business and maybe ever. Like, he's good. Yes, he has the slips. Yes, he says the wrong moves every now and then. Yes, the internet community loves to blow that up and out of proportion. But the guy has a genuine love for the business. He understands the business like most don't. And when it comes to the casual wrestling fans or even people that aren't, that may be tuning in to WrestleMania for the first time ever because it's the biggest ever, like, he fills them in. He makes sure that you can come in straight off the street, never having watched it before, and you're going to understand.
Pick up on the story.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I had done. And I'm looking at, like, the build up for this. And the one thing I will say is, over the last couple years, the Bloodline storyline is the greatest piece of storytelling that I think wrestling has ever had. Because I don't care if they're in the ring wrestling or not. If I'm skipping through doing the fast DVR, I want to get through 3 hours of Raw in about an hour and a half. I'm skipping through everything unless any of the Bloodline is on the screen. And I'm stopping and I'm listening to the entire backstage promo. I'm watching them pull up in the limousine because there might be something taking place in the back of the scenes, some little Easter egg or nugget that I don't normally catch. I want to see it. And that's the thing, like with this, I mean, under the Triple H regime and with the Bloodline storyline, with Paul Heyman kind of helping on the back end of this and providing that context, and especially now with The Rock being back in it and his writer, Brian Gerwitz, with him being part of it and helping out as well. It's like all of that, I go into it thinking everything matters. Everything means something. When I see The Rock beating down Cody out behind the building, causing him to be a bloody mess on Raw, which, by the way, when did they start allowing blood back on Raw? I thought this was PG. Like, when is that? When The Rock is dropping an F-bomb, albeit they got
final
censored.
boss is in charge.
Well, yeah, when the final boss is in charge, that's what he's going by. When he does that, but while he's beating him down, the camera is just positioned just so right that you see the trailer in the background, and there are only 2 wrestlers on that trailer. Neither one are on the active roster currently. You've got John Cena and Stone Cold. It's like, everything matters. Everything matters, and there is something to this, because it's not only that they're outside, in dark, in the rain. That trailer was lit up. There were lights shining directly on that trailer, not just on Cody and The Rock.
Yeah. You asked when, and I'll tell you, it happened when The Rock got put in some position of authority.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I got to bring Gewurz in. Mm-hmm. And he was able to convince them that you guys have been doing this PG era for so long that these people and these kids that you were pulling into the PG era are no longer watching PG. So we've come full circle again, like we did back in the time with all the gimmicks, and everybody has to be a mailman, a garbage guy, man, etc., etc., etc. That then they said, "Oh, yeah, we're being a little hokey, and we have to keep these people that are now adults, and now we gotta cater to the audience." Well, what's the audience really watching these days, as far as media goes? Yep. And they're watching John Wick and they're watching Deadpool. And they do not care about trolls.
And they're watching streaming more than broadcast television, and streaming, you don't have I mean, you don't have to walk around and tiptoe around the advertisers. I think they're also prepping for the Netflix era when they're not really worried about the advertisers. It's like, we get this, what was it, $5 billion or $10 billion. I don't even know how many billion-dollar
insane.
contract they get. It's like, oh, we're just going to put Raw here, and we don't really have any strict guidelines to go by.
Are they still going to... So then Raw will no longer be offered on Peacock?
Shouldn't be.
I don't believe so, no. Because that's part of the NBC contract that is up, because NBC is USA.
So what are they going to do with the rest of their content?
Oh, I imagine all of that's going on Netflix.
They merged
what
all
is
their
SmackDown or
content
NXT's
from their
going to
own app.
Peacock?
Oh, that NXT,
Or USA.
I think is no.
Same
SmackDown
thing.
is going to USA because Fox didn't want it to renew it.
It's still NBC.
Yeah,
It's
it'll still be NBC,
Peacock.
but
So something will be there.
I don't know. I guess I'm not sure on the details of how that's going to go, but for the amount of money that Netflix was offering, it makes me think that they're wanting all of it. And I could easily see them, here you go, here's all of it.
So that was when.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be a doozy of an episode.
Yeah, let's go through these predictions.
lineup?
What we're going to do is we're going to offer up our WrestleMania predictions. We're going to go through the card. I've got these up there. I've not only got the predictions up there. I went to Bet Online. It's odd that you can actually bet on wrestling.
Unscripted.
On something that's scripted, predetermined, choreographed. But it can still happen.
If only they did that with the MCU Civil War. Who's going to win?
If
Team
only
Cap
they
or
did
Team
that
Iron
with
Man?
regular sports. Are they scripted? Does the NFL put out a script every year? You decide. So anyways.
Have you watched and seen some of the conspiracy theories on how the NBA is all scripted?
Yes, and after that
and their worst actor in the world,
Yep.
LeBron James.
Hey, X was blown up last night because of the foul from UConn at the end of the Iowa-UConn game, and everybody's convinced that it was all scripted, that the NCAA wants Iowa in the finale, and that's why they had to do it right at the end. So
Now, Josh, are you keeping track of these predictions so we can see who won?
yeah, we'll keep track of these. I mean, obviously, when I go through and I'll edit this up, I'll go back through and I'll keep track of all of it, because Dustin and I were talking
Mine's
about
going to be
this.
a guess. I'm gonna base my predictions on the color of their gear.
Even the sun shines every now and then. And Dustin and I were talking about this the other day.
You guys are going to wind up getting compared to me.
Well, but you'll get a little bit of an insight because I do have the predictions up there and what the betting odds are. So
right.
the negative numbers mean they're favored, and the higher the negative number, the more they're favored. So like negative 1,000 is like an almost guarantee, whereas like a negative 100 is like, maybe.
Too much.
But Dustin and I were talking what we're going to do with this, and eventually, I think we're all just going to pick up some really cheap like title belts, and then we will have the wrestling-related predictor champion after every one of these pay-per-views when we offer it up. And so whoever won will have the belt with them and be able to, I'm putting my title on the line this month.
The traveling champ.
Yeah. So, but instead of having to mail it, we'll just all three have a copy. So then we just pull it out.
Dustin.
Yeah.
What's that?
We're going to spend some money on FedEx to get that thing to Dustin.
It's not going to travel. We're going to do a really cheap one, so all three of us have one in stock, and then we just pull it out.
Oh,
yeah.
So
fair enough.
That's it.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's get to this match. We're going to start off with night one of WrestleMania, and this has kind of been updated as of yesterday. We have got Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus Dominik Mysterio and Santos Escobar. And
is that the latest? Because I looked on WWE.com today, and they had somebody else in place of DragonLee.
Oh, did they?
Well, and that's what happens when you miss SmackDown from last night.
Oh,
they had what's his face?
Well, see, I missed SmackDown.
Charlotte
Okay,
Flair.
what am I looking at?
It's Andrade and Rey.
Oh, it's Andrade
that changes
now?
things. It changes all choices now.
That changes your whole plan.
That changes my whole prediction. Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking,
the problem with you having a prediction.
Well, and this was me getting the all of the slides up yesterday, so I got it here and for this morning, but fine. Okay. So we've swapped this out. It is now Andrade and Ray.
Andrade and Ray.
Oh, against. Oh man. Okay. This is hard. And we'll start the predictions in kind of a weird order. I'll start with the first prediction. I'll give mine, and then we can go down the list. Dustin, and then Corey, right. And then the next one Dustin will have to give first.
Now I'll make a quick request that you give me a 2-minute
recap.
Okay. And I may just ask a couple questions and
to
kind of give you
the big recap is Andrade has recently come back. He came back at Royal Rumble, if I remember right, correct?
Right.
That. So he's back. He's kind of been talking to like the LWO, which has been resurgent, and that's where Rey Mysterio is part of the LWO. So he's been talking about them, but Andrade is kind of like your Latin free agent, whereas you've got Santos Escobar that is part of El Legado Fantasma. And then Dominik is part of the Judgment Day. But Dominik has kind of been on, I don't know, he's been on rocky ground a little bit with Judgment Day because he's been spending a lot more time with Santos Escobar and bringing them into Judgment Day's like locker room hangout. And so they're basically like, take care of it.
What does Mommy think about
that? Mommy she was silent for a few weeks. And then this last week on Monday, she was pretty vocal of, fix it. I'm not happy. And he's like, okay, I'll take care of it. And they've also had issues with JD McDonough, who I think you've referred to as Big Head. He has not been able to actually secure a win on Ricochet, and they're upset with that. And Dominik has even tried to help out and still been unsuccessful. But going back a year, last year was Rey Mysterio versus Dominik Mysterio, and Rey actually got revenge and won that match.
Ooh.
So the thing is like when I was looking at this, I'm thinking first right out the gate, I'm thinking that it was going to be Dominik and Santos that was going to win this. The odds are saying it's a negative 180, so it's close. But I was thinking that was it. Now you throw Andrade in the mix, and
so pull up the new bet. What's the new bet line?
Yeah, let's see. What is the updated bet? Let me check that out. Bet online. And we'll look down here. But up scrolling.
Scrolling.
WWE WrestleMania matches. Okay, so the updated bet, they don't even have Andrade in there. They still have Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee, and it's actually adjusted. It's now negative 200 is where the bets are at. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and just because Andrade got switched up and because it's so close, I'm going to say that Rey Mysterio and Andrade are going to win this match. That's my prediction. Locked in. Dustin?
Okay.
I'm going the complete opposite. I'm going to say it's going to be Santos and Dominik with an instant heel turn from Andrade onto Rey. And that's my prediction. Locked it in.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going to give you any predictions on storyline context. Other than basically, Ray got his WrestleMania 1 last year. I think,
right?
Because we got the drama with Judgment Day and so.
It's tough. Especially with that Judgment Day drama, it's like that would, if they lose, it would make for better TV.
You take that out of the equation, and I would give it to Dom.
Yeah, but it's not out of the equation, so.
I'm still going to give it to Dom.
Okay. All right, so we've got you two going Dom and Escobar, and I'm going Ray and whoever he has with him. Next match that we've got up.
Dom and whoever he has with him.
Yeah.
Got it.
Next match we've got up is Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi against Damage Control of Dakota Kai and the Kabuki Warriors.
Is this a it's just a 6-man tag. They didn't like
Correct.
switch it up to be like 6 women belts, did they?
Nope.
No.
It's just
still just a standard
a
tag.
6-man tag. Belts are not on the line. Just straight
Okay.
across. This will be Jade Cargill's first
Yep.
actual match. I mean, she did enter the Royal Rumble, but
Right.
for an actual match, it would be Jade Cargill's, and they have been slow rolling her out and building her up to be the next big
The
thing
monster.
in the women's division.
And I am just hoping and praying, please, Lord, during this slow build up, help train her a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I have not been impressed when she was in AEW at all.
Is she all look and
All
no
look
work?
and no show.
She's green. She's green.
Very.
She's got potential. She has a lot of athleticism, but she is big and she is green.
Did they not give her enough at AEW?
I don't know. I mean, I know that AEW is working with her a lot, but I think it was a case of let's just go ahead and roll her out there, and we'll try to put her with the right people to accentuate what she can do. And I think that's what
Work her
WWE
on the
tried
road.
as well. They brought her in and they're like, hey, let's try to train her for a little while. Let's do a slow build. When they started to bring her out at Royal Rumble, they're like, okay, she's still not quite where we were wanting. Let's see what we can do on the road to WrestleMania and try to get her up. And she's learning and she's improving. It's just slow.
Okay.
And she's got more of that fitness model.
They got to keep in
background.
mind. Yeah, they got to keep in mind when they do stuff like that,
Yep.
that somebody may have a name, they may look like $1 million, but when you do that, you run the risk of getting an Ultimate Warrior instead of a Kurt Angle. Because, I mean, Kurt essentially got that treatment. He's like, hey, my first match was on TV.
Yeah.
Go.
And I would say she's definitely more in the Ultimate Warrior category than like Bill Goldberg. You know, when they first come out looking like $1 million. So she's closer to that.
Closer to Warrior than Goldberg.
Yeah.
That's
Like-
not a compliment.
I think it is. Because
Oh.
Warrior didn't have as many like injuries on his hand and as many like just outright what were you thinking? So
But the difference between Ultimate Warrior and Goldberg, though, was Warrior didn't cause as many injuries to other wrestlers.
well, and
Warrior.
Where
when you
Jade
put
does.
if you would have put Ultimate Warrior in with William Regal,
did it?
it would have been a good match. You put Goldberg in with William Regal, and it's one of the worst
not a
matches
good
that Nitro's ever had.
Wrong. Give me one decent match out of Warrior. Can't do it. Doesn't exist.
I also
99% of his matches consisted of a 2-minute
AWA.
squash.
In AWA, when he was the Dingo Warrior, in AWA, he had one good match. I remember
can't
it.
think of
Iceman King Parsons and Dingo Warrior. I remember.
While I can't think of a great match or even a good, like, oh yeah, that was amazing by Ultimate Warrior,
Mediocre.
I can't do that with Goldberg. And at the same time, I can't think of like horrible matches of Ultimate Warrior, but I can with Goldberg. Like Goldberg versus William Regal will always stand out as one of the worst matches I've ever seen. And it's like, you
Agreed.
got William Regal. Like, how is that bad?
How do you screw that up?
Right? But anyways,
This
so
is
with
a
that,
gift.
betting line is saying Belair, Cargill, and Naomi negative or minus 2,000 favorites, heavily favorite. This may be the biggest favoritism that I've seen on this bet online. Dustin, thoughts? You start
Yeah,
off with yours.
I'm going right down with that bet line. I mean, it's Cargill's first match. They're going to want to get her over. They're trying to give her the push. You got former champion Bianca Belair. Naomi's making her comeback. She hasn't really won anything since coming back to the WWE. I think this is going to be hands down for Bianca, Naomi, and Jade.
Yeah, this is a layup.
So you're in the same way with that, Corey?
Yeah, this is a layup.
Yeah, and I am
got,
too.
You got some noob that is getting the slow but big push. Yeah, that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, and I don't see this
If
as doing.
it goes the other, the only way it goes the other way would be if they're trying to initiate some sort of feud with Cargill, but from the sounds of it, she hasn't been out there long enough for people to take up to her.
No, and I don't see that happening.
They're just excited.
Yep, I don't see that happening with them either. And it really doesn't do any damage to damage control. Like taking an L on this, it doesn't really hurt them at all. They don't lose the belts. It's not a big thing for Dakota Kai because she's only been back for a little while in-ring competition. So it's like, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I think the odd makers have got this right. Belair, Cargill, and Naomi for all of us on that pick. Next up, this is going to be a fun one for Corey to try to jump straight out the gate on this one.
This is going to be hard.
This is a six-pack ladder match. Dustin, is there anything that's been added or taken away from this as of SmackDown last night?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
The only thing from SmackDown, it's not really much of a spoiler, is Judgment Day did come out and start beating living tar out of everybody that was in another match. So
okay. So you've got Judgment Day that are unified champions, undisputed. They're both the Raw and SmackDown tag team champions. They have both belts. It's a six-pack ladder match, which means both belts are going to be suspended, and the match doesn't stop until both belts have been retrieved. They haven't clarified this, but there is a possibility that one team could get one belt and the other team could get the other belt, and that they could be split.
That sounds
which
like
they
a kick in
should
the
do.
shorts.
They should do that, though.
Yeah,
they really should
totally
because there's enough teams.
Which night is this on?
This is Saturday night. Tonight.
So they should do that and then have those two respective teams do a rematch the following night for the belts.
Well,
or yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like there being separate belts. I like when there were two different teams. I don't like when somebody holds one belt and then that's it. That's kind of where you had the Roman Reigns holding the only belt until they brought out the new world champion, and Seth wound up winning it. When there's only one there, it's really kind of hard. Again, you got Judgment Day defending, and they've got 5 other teams, 5 other opportunities for them to lose one or both of their belts.
So what are we saying here? So now the vote's going to be not a one winner, but we have a potential vote for 2 winners.
Correct. And I would say that this one, if we wind up, if you go with one and you just say this person's winning both of them and they do win both, you get 2 points for that. If they only win one, you would get 1 point for that. And if they don't, then you get none. That's kind of how we're going to rate this one.
Sure.
In our predicting championship thing. There are 3 teams coming over from Raw, 2 from SmackDown, I believe, was kind of how we did this, where on Raw, you've got DIY, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa.
Yep.
You got the New Day of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. You've got the Awesome Truth, which of course is The Miz and Ron the Truth Killings. Then you've got A-Town Down Under of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, and New Catch Republic of Thank You for Putting His Name Back to Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Thank you, Triple H. I am so glad that you let him go back to Pete Dunne and you did not keep him as Butch. That was definitely a Vince thing and it was dumb. So that's who you've got in this. For context, I will say that the 2 teams that I have been seeing kind of get pushed and elevated up would be DIY and the New Catch Republic, one on Raw, one on SmackDown, both of them coming kind of from NXT, both teams being Triple H teams and guys that he went out and he sought and he picked on and brought them in. DIY, I remember Johnny Gargano had been released, had a kid, and then came back. And I heard an interview recently with him, and he said that he's in the best shape that he's ever been in. And then you've got the Awesome Truth, where R-Truth, he was a part of Judgment Day and had beat Mr. Big Head to be a part of Judgment Day. And Mr. Big Head, JD McDonough, was supposed to be kicked out of Judgment Day because he lost, and yet they kept him in. And R-Truth was selling more merchandise than anybody else at the time because he had a Judgment Day tee with like a piece of duct tape and his name added to the list of Judgment Day.
Great story.
And then they finally turned on him.
Yeah.
And they have been partnering up off and on with DIY, and he believes that DIY is Regeneration X of Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Because
which is so funny.
It's R-Truth, like one of the greatest comedy wrestlers in the business. So,
and what have they been doing with Miz?
Miz, he's normal Miz, where he's heel 1 minute, then he's face 1 minute, then he's heel 1 minute, then he's face 1 minute.
So they can't make up their minds. So
but when him and Truth are together, it's the Awesome Truth, and they've been working well.
And they are former, if I remember right, they are former tag team champions as Awesome Truth. That was during my dark times. That was kind of filled in. And you've got the New Day, who I believe they were one of, if not the longest reigning WWE tag champions. And they're always in the picture. Like, they could win and nobody would be surprised. So
any word on what's going on with Big E?
He was at the Hall of Fame last night.
Yeah, he still hasn't been cleared for in-ring competition because of the severity of his neck injury.
No, he's been cleared.
I heard, but he was close.
He has been cleared.
I heard that he got cleared
a month ago. Yeah.
Okay.
But he was on the fence as to what he wanted
what
to
he
do
was going to do.
Like
yeah, so I don't know. I miss Big E. Like the New Day without Big E, it just, I mean, it's hard. Like they're the modern version of the Freebirds. Like the way that they do that, the way that they all three merge and just they complement each other so good. They're one of my favorite.
Another shout out to the University of Iowa alumni. There you go.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So Corey, who you got? You got one. You got two. You got. The odds are saying Awesome Truth
I got nothing. You guys go.
Okay. Awesome Truth is at plus 100. DIY is at plus 250. Judgment Day is at plus 400, as well as A-Town Down Under plus 400. The New Day at plus 700. New Catch Republic at plus 800. If I'm picking this, I'm thinking one of the teams from Raw is getting it. One of the teams from SmackDown is getting it. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say both of the Triple H teams are winning belts, and it's going to be DIY from Raw side and the New Catch Republic from SmackDown side. So I'm taking one that's kind of favorited and one that's not even close to being favorited. But that's my prediction for this. I think the belts are getting split, and I think that those are the two teams. DIY and New Catch Republic are walking away with the belts, and Judgment Day is going to take their second L for the night.
Dustin?
What was their first L for the night? Did we talk about that?
Well, I think it was going to be Dominik taking the L. You guys don't, but I think they are.
That's right. Okay. So I will agree with you. I think Pete Dunne and Bate will end up taking one of them.
And they're on what show?
They're on SmackDown.
Okay. Who? The
other SmackDown team is A-Town Down Under, Grayson Waller, and Austin Theory.
No.
Okay. Continue, Justin.
And if you're going by look, Corey, do you recognize them all by looks?
Vaguely. Dustin's going to spit out a sentence here soon.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just waiting for the silence so I can talk. Okay, so the second team I'm going to go with, I am going to go with the New Day with the help from Big E. Big E's going to make his return and help in some capacity. That's my goal. That's my pick.
I would love it. I would not be angry at that one bit.
It's the biggest WrestleMania. They have to do something to make it big in almost every match. That's why I'm going with some little something in almost each one.
I could see it. Yeah. At the same time, I mean, it's so crazy. I could also see, R-Truth grabbing the belts and handing it to the Judgment Day as well. So it's like, I don't know, but yeah, I'm not angry with that prediction.
Is that all right? Both.
So you're taking the two underdogs in this prediction, New Day and
I'm taking the New Catch Republic. Yep.
Okay.
And New Catch Republic.
I love Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is just.
Corey's going to throw us for a swerve, and he's going to say nothing changes, and Judgment Day walks out with both belts still.
I disagree with that. They're changing.
Question: where does Judgment Day fall on what shows? Generally speaking.
They're Raw.
Not the,
Yeah. Generally,
Okay.
they're Raw because there was that storyline of the Judgment Day runs Raw, and then it was like, no, Seth Rollins comes out and he's like, I'm the world champ, so Raw is Rollins. So they kind of go back and forth who has it. But generally, they're on Raw, but because they have both belts, they appear on both shows.
You know what? I will. I don't want to copy somebody else's take on it.
Feel free.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the Catch guys.
New Catch Republic.
Was it New Catch Republic?
Yep.
Mhm.
Both UK
Baby or
guys.
heel?
They're
Their
their faces more on the tweener side, but
Yeah.
they're definitely faces. They're just, I mean, they're British wrestlers. They're the UK wrestlers. They are hard hitting.
Okay.
And that's the key.
And Judgment Day all heel?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say Judgment Day keeps the SmackDown while I'm going to mirror Dustin's New Day. Because the fact that he just got clearance recently, I mean, how could you not? That's easy booking.
Agreed. Here's one other question.
And for your casual fan that's not in the, hey, who's got released, who's got this, who's got clearance, who's got that, they're gonna get a pop.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right. Next match we got on the card is brother versus brother. It is the third time that brother versus brother has appeared at WrestleMania. The first being Brett and Owen. The second being Matt versus Jeff Hardy. And now you get Jimmy. Main event Jimmy. It is Yeet main event Jay versus Jimmy. One's Yeet, one's no Yeet. This has been a lifelong dream of theirs. It has been building. The hard thing with the bloodline is there was a time that Jimmy was the face of the brother and Jay was playing the heel. And then Jimmy kind of won Jay over, and then Jay wound up becoming the face, and then Jimmy kind of turned heel, and that's the way it's been. So Jay is out of the bloodline, although you're still blood, so are you ever truly out of the bloodline type of a deal? Yeah, Jay Uso is favorited by a slim margin of -200. If it's me, I've got to go with main event Jay. He has one of the greatest entrances right now, where he's getting the whole crowd bouncing up and down, and they're just in it, and he's selling merch like crazy. I think they continue this. I think he goes ahead and takes the win over Jimmy. And I say that hesitantly because I also could very easily see younger brother Solo coming in and costing Jay the match and then dragging out this feud even more. You know, have a rematch at SummerSlam, have the blow off in the third match meeting at Survivor Series. Like I can see that happening, but for tonight, for WrestleMania Night 1, I'm going with Jay.
And I despise, with all my heart, I despise that term, yeet.
Yeet!
But this is the only time you will hear me say, my vote is for yeet.
And
Uso.
Corey, if you want to catch up on why the yeet was coming around, there was a post-media scrum with Cody and Jay.
I don't understand those 4 words you just put together.
Jay was drunk. he was so drunk, and all of a sudden he's just like, yeet! And then Cody went in with yeet, and then by the next week, the next night on Monday, everybody in the crowd has got yeet signs, and by I think Friday, there were yeet t-shirts out.
So it was a new what?
It was, and they do it when he's cutting a promo or somebody's cutting a promo against him. Every pause is yeet.
So one question.
Yep.
How long's the feud been going?
So there's been tension. There's been tension with those two for about 2 years, but I think it's been a solid year that Jay has been out of the bloodline.
Okay, I'm going Jimmy.
Okay.
One, to be different. 2, because I see them dragging it out a little bit more. We got a 6-man or a 16, however many team
Yeah.
uh, title belt thing going on. We also have a 6-lady tag match thing going on that kind of looks and feels thrown together to fill the card. So to keep storylines rolling, I say you're going to get Solo in the middle of it, and it's gonna continue.
Yep, that could work.
Or
we got 3 more matches for night.
Because of the drama, you could get Solo jumping in on the middle of it, and then Jimmy getting protective of Jay, and now we've got some mending of the fences.
True. And hey, I will pop huge if Dad shows up and we get Rikishi.
I think he will.
Huge.
I think he will.
He said he's in that weekend.
And he's in Philly.
Oh,
so
he was there last. He was last night for the Hall of Fame. He was there.
Yeah.
So
sitting right next to Haku.
3 more matches on night 1. We've got the Intercontinental Champion Gunther, who is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion as of tonight. He will have held that belt for 665 days, so he has already surpassed the Honky Tonk Man. Thank you, Triple H. I hated the fact that the Honky Tonk Man was the longest reigning IC champion. Although it's kind of redundant to say
Honky Tonk Man is in a conversation.
Well, this is true. And Gunther has brought such prestige back to that belt, which if
they agreed too.
Which, if you guys have never seen or Corey, if you've never seen like some of Gunther's matches, here's one I hope that they build up to. Here's why I'm going to pick Gunther to win this. I don't think he's dropping the belt yet. As much as I love Sami Zayn, as much as Sami Zayn has been in the title picture, and just 2 years ago, we were all clamoring for Sami to dethrone Roman. I don't think he's the one to dethrone Gunther. I think they're going to wait until Ilya Dragunov gets brought up, and then he goes against Gunther, because I want to see another Gunther or Walter at the time versus Ilya Dragunov. That match, I have never hurt so much watching a match. The chops in that match were ridiculous. The broken blood vessels on the chest were ridiculous, and yet it still told a great story, and it was one of the most painful matches I've ever watched. And that's with a lot of the hardcore stuff.
Which begs the question of how many Kobayashi matches you've seen.
Oh, several.
This one was worse.
Yeah, this this one.
All right.
Yeah, check that
Send
one
me a
out.
link. I'll check it out.
It's so good. And
So
at the
on
same
to
time,
predictions.
you want to
So you're going with Gunther?
I'm going with Gunther for this one.
I agree.
Yeah, I have Sami Zayn's even the favorite in this, but I don't think he's the one to end the title reign. I don't think so.
I agree. I'm going with Gunther, but I think it's going to have something going on with Chad Gable, because Chad Gable's been helping Sami Zayn do some training and get him ready. So I think there's going to be either a heel turn with Chad or a heel turn with Sami.
Yep.
And I think Gunther's still going to win.
And Chad Gable could be the one to dethrone Gunther. At SummerSlam, that could easily be a case, which I wouldn't be mad about Chad Gable doing it. I think that he is ready for a push. He's proven himself, and then some. But yeah, and there's also that element of Chad Gable saying that Sami Zayn couldn't beat Gunther. Like, he didn't have it in him to beat him, even though Chad Gable lost. So
when does Gunther take the that claim to fame from Honky Tonk?
Oh, he already did.
He already did.
6 months or almost a year ago, I think. I think it was SummerSlam last year.
And how long have they been building up Sami for this match?
For this match, only the last month. Because it pretty much came after they were doing a what was it? Sami wound up winning a gauntlet match against Bronson Reed, JD McDonough, Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Chad Gable.
And then there was some more build up with Gable prior to that, right?
Yeah, Gable had a lot more build up for him going into it.
Okay, I'll side on Gunther.
Okay. Next up, we got women's title match. Women's world champion Rhea Ripley, Mommy, against Becky Lynch. Rhea is heavily favored, I would say, at -450.
pick?
In my opinion, this is the one where Judgment Day actually takes their first win. I think Rhea retains.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's a little bit of what's happening with Becky. She said on Ariel Helwani's podcast that she doesn't even have a contract and nobody's talked to her about a contract extension, which is coming up in June.
Both her and Seth's contracts are coming up soon.
But to me, I could see
over.
Yeah, and I could see Rhea being the only one of Judgment Day that actually retains, solidifying that she is the leader of Judgment Day. And she's like, y'all are losing. I retained. So
cool.
That's kind of my thoughts.
Easy.
You guys both with Rhea on this one?
Yep.
All right. Then we've got the main event of night one, Roman Reigns and The Rock, the Bloodline, against Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. Bloodline rules are on the line. If Roman and Rock wind up winning, which they are negative 1,000 favored to win, then that means night two, which is the Roman versus Cody, is under Bloodline rules, which means anything goes. But if Cody and Seth win, then the Bloodline is banned from the ring and they cannot interfere.
Easy.
To me, yeah, it's The Rock and Roman winning. It's like,
easy.
We've got to have Bloodline rules. I want to see all of the shenanigans that come with Bloodline rules, and let's stack the deck against Cody even more when we want him to finish his story. Make it even harder for him to win.
Let's add more drama, and now that we're starting to introduce a little juice and a little more attitude era in there, do it.
All right, so we're all on with Rock and Roman going into Bloodline rules for night two?
Justin's on the fence.
No, I'm good. I'm just trying to think,
this is an easy
do
one.
Do I want to throw in something as a little swerve in there? Like, I think Josh and I were talking not too long ago, and eventually bring in Brandy Rhodes. Maybe Brandy Rhodes does something to cost him the match and gets disqualified, so that way Rock and Roman wins tomorrow or tonight. I don't know.
It could be Brandy interfering. It could be Mama Rhodes interfering. The Rock trying to take the bloody belt down to Mama Rhodes, and she slaps him. The ref sees it, disqualifies him. Oh, would you hate that finish?
I don't think it's going to be that, but it's going to be Rock and Roman.
Yep.
Night two.
All right. Night two, we go in, and we are coming in with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits against the Final Testament of Authors of Pain. What is it? Akam or Ashan and Razor and Karrion Kross. They've got Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits at negative 200 favorites. I think that it's actually going to be the Final Testament. I think that they have been building up Karrion Kross for a push, and they have underutilized him, and Vince's stupid thing of having him put that mask on and coming out with whatever that gladiator loincloth looking thing was dumb. Let him tap into the killer Kross that he was. Let him bring that in even more, and really build him up as the leader of the Final Testament. I see them going over.
But likewise, Bobby Lashley the other night made the comment that this Bobby Lashley is not the Bobby Lashley he once was, and he is bringing that Bobby Lashley back. So
correct.
I'm going
Which
with Street
that
Profits
Bobby Lashley,
and Bobby
if he taps into that,
was a beast.
Oh wow, yeah.
Although
that's part of the reason why I want to go with Karrion Kross's team, because I want to see Karrion go a little darker on him and draw that out of him more, leading to those two at like a SummerSlam type of a match.
There you go.
So that's kind of where I'm going. So we're split on that, Corey?
Heels.
Okay, so he's going with heels. That would be the Final Testament, Karrion Kross,
that doesn't surprise me. Corey's going with Paul Ellering, so that doesn't.
This is true. Paul Ellering is the manager for.
Pain.
Yeah.
Oh, done.
See, told you.
There was a little more of the context. Yeah, because they've got that and him and Scarlett Bordeaux as well. So, which of course, Profits have got beef at.
And Kross does a crazy Jesse Ventura impression.
He does. His impersonation of Jesse is spot on. Like, I heard one of those the other day on a podcast, and I was like,
it's nuts.
I thought I was listening to Karrion Kross. I didn't know I was listening to Jesse. And then it was like he was talking
I thought it was a voiceover.
Yep.
I was like, why does this not match?
Next matchup is L.A. Knight. Yeah. against AJ Styles. LA Knight is favored -600 on this. If
All
you
right,
go
let me talk to
6
you.
months ago,
Dustin starts.
let me talk to you.
I was just saying to the LA Nightline. Okay, so this is the one I'm really torn on. I would like to see LA Knight win, but for some reason I think this storyline is going to drag on longer. And I actually have, you can actually see on my card here, I actually have LA Knight written down. However, I'm changing it right now. I'm going with AJ Styles.
Oh, okay. To me, I completely disagree. I don't think this storyline is going anywhere. I think this was a last minute. We just kind of threw something together with no forethought. It has been mildly disappointing. I love both guys. I would love to see them in some type of a program. It just doesn't have the drive that it has right now. And part of that is because I really thought that they were leading up to an LA Knight versus Logan Paul match at WrestleMania. That didn't happen. So now I think that might be a SummerSlam down the road. So because of that, I have to go with LA Knight. I think this is kind of ending this short-lived feud. It seems like with AJ Styles, they don't know what to do with him. And that is so disappointing. But because of that, I think LA Knight still has the momentum. He's still got the crowd into him. And it just takes a moment for him to really elevate up. And he needs to be in a title picture. I think the U.S. Championship is the perfect title picture for him to be in. So that's where I would go with LA Knight in this one.
From my very, very limited insight, what little bit I've seen of LA Knight is basically a guy coming out and trying to do the same shtick that The Rock and so many before him did, which is with The Rock in the picture, it's mediocre at best. I mean, it's a cheap imitation. Seen recently that Styles is beefed up a bit. So that would be interesting. Kind of curious how that's going to affect his ring work, because you pack on that much weight, that changes things a little bit. However, he's there. I'd be hard pressed to find another athlete on the roster that could do what he does. Maybe a
Correct.
Ray.
And he hasn't skipped a beat on his ability,
it.
Even with the extra size. He's still doing all the aerial. It hasn't
so I have
hurt at all.
I have no idea who's over. I have no idea what the buildup is. I have no idea who's baby and heel. I'm gonna go with Styles.
Okay. LA Knight is
so
the
if
face,
you are looking
Styles
and if you
is the
are
heel.
looking at building LA Knight for a match down at SummerSlam, you've got like 4 pay-per-views between then and now. So this isn't going to change a push. This won't change a push for him.
Yep, very could be. All right. Then we get into the U.S. Championship that we were alluding to. You've got the champion, Logan Paul, against Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. In any other match for me, Logan Paul is favorited, 375. It's not a huge margin. If there were any other match of Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens, I would say that it's a lot closer. If it was Logan Paul versus Randy Orton in any other match, it's a lot closer. Because there's the 3 of them and you get triple threat rules in there, it actually favors the champion. Because both guys are going to want that pin, and that means they're going to have to fight against each other. So to me, that paired with the fact that, again, here comes into SummerSlam. SummerSlam this year is in Cleveland. Logan Paul is from Ohio, from Cleveland, and he has already said that he wants all of the Cleveland stars to be there. He wants LeBron to be there. He wants Machine Gun Kelly.
LeBron who? Who's LeBron?
Yeah, exactly.
Jay Brown.
Yeah, so he wants everybody to be there. So to me, I think he's going in as the U.S. champion. I'm giving it to Logan Paul coming out on this, and of course with some type of a shady finish.
I agree. I think Logan Paul's going to come out. I think there's talk early on when Randy Orton came back about he's going to come back as a face, and there was rumors that at the Elimination Chamber he was going to turn around and turn heel at that point. I see Randy Orton turning heel on Kevin Owens and costing the match, and then Logan Paul going on as champion, and then the feud between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens.
That could be. I mean, I actually think that KSI might actually show up and cost Randy. Just because of him showing up at, was it Royal Rumble or right after, maybe the Raw after, something like that, and Randy gave KSI the RKO. Nah. So, and I know they were on a podcast, Logan and KSI interviewing, talking about that, and Logan had mentioned, I think we need to get you back in the ring so you can get revenge on Randy Orton. And he's like, and how cool would it be if we were at WrestleMania again? So,
for recap, Logan Paul's the only heel in the mix.
Yes. Correct. And I would say that Kevin Owens and Randy Orton have both been historically, especially in the last 5 years, on the tweener side of faces. So they're definitely on the baby side, but more tweener. And both of them can easily go back and forth.
I would say champion wins, and one of the other guys has a turn.
All right. There we got that one. We're going into the WWE Women's Champion, Iyo Sky from Judgment Day versus Bayley, who won the Women's Royal Rumble, and Bayley, who was the founder of... Oh, wait, I said Judgment Day, not Damage Control, didn't I? Right. So Iyo Sky with Damage Control, she's the champion. Bayley was the founder of Damage Control and was the one that brought all of those girls back in and back together, but they have recently turned on Bayley and kind of left her out high and dry. Bayley is favored at -500. I've got to go straight with the betting lines. I miss Bayley as a face. Bayley as a heel was fun for a while there, but I like her so much better as a face. And I think she's got to get a little bit of revenge on them. And it would be fun to see Damage Control take L's all the way across the board, while still keeping the Kabuki Warriors as the women's tag champs. So, yeah, I'm going with Bayley.
And I don't think that betting line is negative enough. I agree. Bayley's going to win it. I think it should be like a -1,000. I think it's
very well could be. Although, actually, the updated betting line is only -400. So,
no, I say Bayley all the way.
We've had enough heel wins in my prediction, and not enough title changes. So I'll go with that.
All right. And then we get into the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, against Drew McIntyre, the Scottish psychopath. They've got Drew as a -500 on the betting lines. If I can look to see what the update would be, if there is an update on it.
While you're looking at that, Josh, I'll just say, Corey, a little update. I don't know. I'm sure you already know. Neither one.
Who's baby, who's heel?
Well, right now Drew's heel, Seth is baby, but neither one have current contracts, or one's ending pretty soon. I don't think Drew's contract has been signed as of yet.
My understanding was Drew's was supposed to be up at the end of the year, and because of injury time, they extended his contract out. There's not been any confirmation on him re-signing. However, to add one little more caveat, they did announce, I think it was just this week, that the pay-per-view later this year, Clash of the Castle, is actually going to be in Scotland. And Drew is Scottish. So there's that goes with it. Seth Rollins, his contract is up in June. He's also been nursing some serious knee injuries.
Same time as his wife.
Yep, same time as his wife, and he's been nursing knee injuries. For years, he's been nursing injuries. I mean, we remember him, Tyler Black out on the indie scene. The guy has always been pushing it and taking the risk, taking the bumps.
Always.
But at the same time, and here you've got some tension, because I really thought they were building up for Seth Rollins versus CM Punk because of the real animosity and tension they have. And with CM Punk being out with a torn tricep, CM Punk is also going to be on commentary during this match. But they had that great promo segment from Monday. Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, all out there. They had no script to it, and it was just go out and wing it.
It was great.
It was great. It was so good. And at the same time, even if they aren't able to do the Seth versus CM Punk, Drew McIntyre has also created so much heat with CM Punk saying, you know what? You kind of left high and dry. You were supposed to be the example, and I did everything that you wish you could have done because I left this place, and instead of running and hiding for 10 years, I wound up going out and I actually made something of myself so that they wanted me back.
So what's your prediction?
I don't know.
He's stumped.
I do.
You go.
I do. My prediction. Here it is. Seth Rollins is going to come out the winner. He is going to win, but Damian Priest will cash in his Money in the Bank, and Damian Priest will come back, beat Seth Rollins. Damian Priest will be the new heavyweight champion.
So throwing the Damian Priest Money in the Bank thing, I thought another little thing with Damian Priest Money in the Bank is back in the tag match where they lose it and Damian uses the Money in the Bank to immediately cash back in and win.
On tag belts?
It's never been done, but you can cash it in on any championship.
I don't see it. I think he'll take this one.
So me, if I have to go with a prediction, I'm going with Drew just because I think Seth he needs some time off to really heal. I think that Drew, they're going to want him to be a big push for Clash of the Castle. And the last time that Drew was champion wasn't it the WrestleMania during COVID when there were no fans? Yep. And he wins and stands up with his arm raised and there is no crowd there to cheer. There is no crowd reaction whatsoever. And that has to just eat not only at him, but eat away even at Triple H, who has been a big Drew fan. I mean, granted, he's a huge Seth fan too. But it just feels like the way they're building Drew up. Initially, if you'd asked me a month ago, I thought it was Seth easily. Now I'm so close. It could really go either way. Even though the betting line is actually coming down and it's closer, I think current is negative 400. I've got to go with Drew, new world heavyweight champion.
And you're right. Seth needs to heal up, but that's why I also throw in the Damian Priest thing because they were coming up on Money in the Bank here. Within the next couple months?
Yeah, and it does. So, he's got to do something before Money in the Bank. Yeah.
So I will side with my prediction will be Drew for all of the reasons that Josh pointed out. However, I do think that the Money in the Bank might get introduced either this night or maybe try to pull it out on Raw. Ooh. So that's not even in the discussion,
the Raw
I guess.
After is always, yeah.
This match, I'll go with Drew.
Okay.
Just because of the injury recovery, the upcoming PPV, sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that paint it either way. It's a close one, but final match, main event of night 2. Can Cody Rhodes, can the American Nightmare finish the story against the WWE champion Roman Reigns, who has held the belt for 1,314 days? He is, if he retains, and that means he's likely not to defend it until SummerSlam, he will beat Hulk Hogan's record for long reign, with the only other two being ahead of him being Bob Backlund and Bruno Sammartino. Hogan is at 1,475 days.
Bruno.
No, nobody's touching
Bruno
that.
Ever. He's at what, 7 years?
Yeah.
That's like insane.
Yep. So with all of this, I believe that because it's under Bloodline rules, I believe there's going to be a huge Avengers Assemble type of a moment where you've got Bloodline coming in, and then you've got Cody's crew and the Cody Crybabies coming in. I think it's an all-out, like everybody's showing up. There's a big smodge. I also believe that this could then lead to some tension between Roman and Rock. where Rock says, I showed up for you. I set you up to be the head of the table. The final boss did that for you. The final boss showed up and he got you bloodline rules. Anything goes, and you still lost. You think that you're the head of the table? Well, guess what? I'm the only one in this family that is a high chief. I am the
building for
boss.
a follow-up.
Yeah.
Building for a follow-up one-on-one with them at SummerSlam or something.
Yep. So I think that Cody wins. Plus, I think that you kind of need to have a face and a heel as champions. And because I think that Seth is losing and Drew's getting it, who's the heel, I think Cody wins this one and gets it to be the first major title in the Rhodes family. So even though Cody's only negative 400 on that, I think that's where we're coming down on this.
So, and I'm going similar choice, however, slightly different reasons why. Here's where your spoiler comes from last night's Hall of Fame. At one segment when Paul Heyman was there, he's facing the camera, the hard cam, and he turns around and says, "Where's Cody Rhodes?" And he walks to the other side of the podium, looks directly at Cody, and he was already making a comment that Paul Heyman wished his mom was there to see him get inducted. He wished his dad was there to see him get inducted. And he walks around the other side of the podium and he looks at Cody and he says, "Cody, I wish your dad, Dusty, was here to see me and see this." Earlier, when he was being inducted in the presentation speech by Roman Reigns, Roman also made a comment. He says, when Roman Reigns is no longer with Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns will not be here.
Yeah.
So, with those two little tidbits, I almost think Cody will win it. Roman Reigns and Paul will split because Roman's taking some time off anyway. He was talking about it. And I think Paul Heyman will then go help Cody at some point. Just to be different. That's what I'm picking.
Let that
Cody
sink in.
wins.
I believe that Cody's going to complete the story. However, as we got to thinking about the Money in the Bank, what if there was a big schmoz, and then as everything's down, then somebody wants to cash in, comes running in trying to get the quick victory while everyone's all down, only to cause some more headaches. And
if Damian cashes in on Cody, then it is full circle. It's back to Dustin winning the belt and having it taken from him in the same night.
A Dusty finish? That's not cool.
Dusty Rhodes doing that. No, we can't do that.
I'm thinking, what if he tries to cash in while everybody is down during the schmoz? Yeah. So everyone's down during the schmoz, and he thinks he can get the quick win because he's all 100%. And while everybody is like scattered around, some in the ring, some out of the ring, and Cody's nowhere near
that could be
near Reigns, he's going to slip in and get the quick belt. But who knows? Who knows? I'm not predicting anything on the Money in the Bank. Or whether that actually winds up being one more thing to cost Roman, but I think Cody's going to complete the story. Yeah, so the bottom line, as Stone Cold would say, which I still think will make an appearance, as well as Cena.
Don't get ahead of yourself yet. We got one more prediction.
Oh my goodness. On top of that, but to steal that line, bottom line is that, Cody's going to finish the story, and that's my take.
All right. So here's the final prediction that we're going to make. Who's going to make an appearance? And this one's going to be for 2 points, okay? There are prop bets on this, but we're going to do 2 points. One of them is we need to predict somebody that is
that's just alone. That's funny.
Somebody that is not on the active roster. So somebody's not on an active roster is what we're doing for both of these. So they can't be signed to an active competitive.
So you get points for each person that
we're going to have 2 guesses. Only two guesses that we get. The first one is you have to predict somebody who's going to appear but not in a physical altercation capacity.
Okay.
And then somebody that is going to appear that will get into a physical altercation capacity.
And not necessarily from that list, correct?
Not necessarily from that list. This is just the prop bets that are out there. Undertaker showing up is a plus 300. Either of the Fatu brothers, being Zilla or Jacob Fatu, being a plus 200. John Cena appearing, a plus 100. Yes, Sylvester Stallone is kind of funny, but this is Philly, and it's the biggest WrestleMania ever, so could Rocky show up? Negative 175.
And they've been in negotiations with Stallone's camp trying to get him to do that.
Something, yeah.
And recently on the
Plus, Stallone had 2 L's.
I don't know. Maybe I typed it in wrong.
maybe. But the video game, the 2K.
Yep.
24. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are putting new Stallone created characters out there. So who knows?
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So you get
and then you have Stone Cold a negative 200 and Jason Kelsey, retired Philadelphia Eagle of the most popular podcast that is out there currently, the New Heights podcast with him and his brother Travis,
sure.
who is dating Taylor Swift. Him being a Philly guy, a negative 300. They're predicting that he could be there. And he has been both of them have been lifelong wrestling fans. And it was Jason Kelsey at the Super Bowl party that was wearing a Kansas City Chiefs Rey Mysterio mask. And then I think Ray had actually gotten a hold of him, I think about, we need to actually make you one of these in Philly style. So that kind of seems like a fitting appearance during the Ray Andrade match. Who knows?
I will say,
Ray's
just
amazing.
rabbit trail, I am so happy that Travis Kelsey decided to start dating Taylor Swift. That has really helped boost her career. I'm just amazed. I appreciate that.
If the Swifties ever find this, they're going to hate on you for it.
I don't
what are they
care.
going to do?
A whole lot
What are
of
they
nothing.
going to do?
Blow up on social media, which I probably pay attention to more than either of you.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Okay, so predictions. 2 predictions. Let's do the first one. Who do we think is going to show up in a non-physical capacity that is not currently on the active roster? And it has to be somebody that's not been, announced, obviously. Like, we know that Mama Rhodes is going to be there, so that one doesn't count.
I'll go with Stallone.
Going with Stallone.
Because it's hilarious.
Okay. That one is funny. I didn't even think about it until I saw this. But yeah, it's funny. And I've been trying to think of other like Philly natives that could possibly be there.
Didn't Stallone induct Hogan into the Hall of Fame?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think so.
I'm
So
going
it's
with
not unheard of.
Yeah, I've got to go with Jason Kelsey because I think he gets there. But then he's the one that I could also say it's a non-physical, and
It could be physical.
and then all of a sudden it gets physical. So even though I guess him, I lose the point because he gets into a physical. But for the non-physical side, I'm going with Jason Kelsey, even though I know that's a huge risk because every other time they brought in an NFL guy, especially for WrestleMania, there is some type of a physical altercation because they're used to being physical.
I'm going to say, as much as I would like to see Stallone, and people of our generation would appreciate that,
Tulsa King.
Yeah, that's an awesome show. They're going after the current 20-something dynamic or demographic. So I think Kelsey will be there. It'll be him just because of the most recent stuff, because he's, 7 degrees from the Swifties.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that could work. All right, now, what is our guess for somebody showing up in a physical altercation? And again, it doesn't have to come from this list.
The key.
I'll go ahead and give my input unless somebody wants to go first.
Go ahead.
I believe it's going to be in the previous match, the main event of night 2. I think it's going to be the big schmoz. I think the forbidden door will be truly open, like we have not seen it. And I believe that Dustin Rhodes comes in on behalf of Cody to help with his brother in defending it. Dustin, who is currently under AEW. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that it's going to be a Goldust variation on it, because I think if Vince were in charge, that's what it would be. But I think it'll probably be Dustin in his own capacity. And I do think that he gets into some type of a physical altercation with somebody. He's mine. It's not just that, this isn't even me making a guess. This is what I want. Like, if we're trying to finish the story with Cody, it's the Rhodes story. And
so is that your dream booking, that the Money in the Bank, Damian Priest comes in, tries to cover for the title, and then Dustin Rhodes makes a slide in, saves it, and chucks him out of the ring and battles to the back?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Or it
Let
could
the
be
match continue.
It could even be, like Solo running down to get interjecting, and Dustin just sitting there front side with Mama Rhodes, and he just jumps and takes out Solo. Or it could be like 5 people down the road, that winds up doing that. But I think if you really want to give the fans what they want with this story of not just being about Cody's story, but being about Dusty's story, then it also is Dustin's story. And I think that Triple H has, because of him being in control, because of The Rock even being the final boss and having that in there, and The Rock having personal experience with Dustin back in the day, I think that there's more likely for him to show up and be it's not even the first person that AEW has brought over, because there was the Stone Cold Broken Skull podcast that Chris Jericho, when he was champion, he came over and did that. So it's possible. I don't know how likely it is. I don't know what the betting odds would be on that, but that's my dream scenario, is that he comes in and does something. Even if it's just an elbow, even if it's a little uppercut, whatever, something. Even if it's just reaching over the barrier and grabbing somebody and pulling them in.
If he's in attendance, he's doing more than that. That's all I'm saying. If he's at ringside, he's getting in the middle of it.
And I hope he is. Like, that would be such a wholesome moment. Like, even if Cody loses, if Dustin is there, I'll still be happy. You can't have him, because I was disappointed last year when it was Cody versus Roman and Dustin wasn't there. And it was like, come on. Like, he's got this opportunity. Okay. It's his brother. I don't know. That's my guess. Dustin Rhodes.
You're very excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna say Rikishi.
In a physical capacity?
Yep.
I think that's a layup. Yeah.
I think he's gonna stick face somebody or something. I don't know.
But for which side? No, as part of the bloodline?
No.
Doesn't matter.
No, it's gonna be Solo coming down trying to get involved, and Nikisha's going to stop it.
He's gonna lay hands on him and say, hold up, wait a minute.
Yeah. He's gonna keep Solo from getting in the middle in some way, so that it's brother and brother.
Okay.
Now what? And then Solo somehow, I don't know, winds up attacking Kish and then getting in the middle of it. Then the brothers, I don't know, have whatever ending they have, and then you did what with my daddy? That'd be a blow up of the bloodline, though. But that's not likely.
Bloodline's gonna blow up anyway.
Not
eventually.
Yet.
At some point, it needs to, but
I can't see it happening at WrestleMania.
Well, not this WrestleMania.
I can see the beginning of the ends.
Yeah, the beginning of the ends at this WrestleMania. Maybe the final next year at WrestleMania. Maybe next year WrestleMania we truly get Rock versus Roman. That could be.
I think they're going to do that sooner. I don't think they're going to wait that long, Mark. Do you?
There was a rumor, or somebody I saw on TikTok or whatever. Somebody made the comment. They said, "What if, during the final night, The Rock ends up costing Roman the title, then Cody gets the title. That sets up for The Rock, because Roman Reigns will have to take some time off. The Rock and Cody at SummerSlam. Reigns comes back at SummerSlam, costs The Rock. Cody retains the title, and then it sets up for The Rock and Reigns at WrestleMania next year. There was that. That possible.
If The Rock costs Reigns the title, that is, I don't think that's going to cause a Rock baby turn. I think that's going to create more heat for him with the fans being, because they still gonna see him as he's one of the boss men that are putting his nose in the middle of it because he wants the attention himself.
But you also got to think The Rock has 2 movies he's getting ready to film. He's not going to want to leave on a bad note. He's going to want to leave as a face with all the fans for help his promotion.
He can do his face turn and all of that the night before. And night 1 with him standing up there to the cheers and throwing his arm in the air.
And he's been doing a good job, The Rock, even currently navigating this by making it the entertainment business and letting people know this is me in WWE. That's different from me outside of WWE. And he's doing a really good job because he shows up on talk shows and it's like everybody's cheering him and loving him. And then they ask him, now this thing that you're doing in WWE where it doesn't seem like you're such a good guy. And he jokes it off and he's like, I'm having so much fun. And he's like, and here's what I told him. I told him that they stink. I told him that they smell funny. I told him that they're idiots, that it's the worst city that I've ever been in. And he's like, and the crowd hates it and we all love it even when they hate it. He's doing a good job of that. But I do think there's a huge missed opportunity if they don't at some point have Rock versus Roman.
Whether it's SummerSlam or push it all the way to WrestleMania, who knows? However, they did push that match between him and Cena for an entire year.
Correct.
They built that up for an entire year, so that would not be a big surprise. The reason why people boycotted so badly against the idea of him and Roman at this WrestleMania was because they cut off the Cody story just to put him in last minute.
Yep.
And it's like, I was reading this book and now you're telling me I don't get to see the end of that show. Right. Now I've got to go watch this other program. No.
And that's the thing. Under Triple H's direction, he is a huge fan of long-term storytelling.
Love it.
And that's where it's like, I think that Cody, and we're all in agreement, Cody's going to win. I think this is a 2-year story just in WWE that's been making, but this is a 30-year story that's been going on, 40-year story that they're tapping into.
And did you
say who you think was getting in physical?
Did you happen to say what?
Rikishi for me.
Did you say who you're thinking is getting the physical altercation?
I'm gonna say the easy layup's gonna be Rikishi.
Okay. All right. So you two are both with Quiche, and I have got Dustin.
I can't see anybody else that it doesn't work for. So do I think that we'll see Stone Cold? Absolutely. Do I think that we'll see Cena? Absolutely. Do I think that we'll see Hogan? Absolutely. Are they getting involved? For what reason?
Hogan gets involved because he doesn't want Roman to break his record. Cena and Stone Cold get involved because The Rock was one of their biggest rivals, and he's been running through talking smack about it's his company and he's the one that did it. And it's like, no, even you, Rock, with all you did, you were a part-timer. We were the ones that came in here and dedicated our lives to it. You were only in the business for a handful of years and then you skipped.
So that I could see those guys coming in during the schmoz.
The schmoz, yeah. I think that's where we're going to see the most obvious physical altercation. There could be a physical altercation versus Jimmy and Jay too. And if it's Rikishi getting involved in Jimmy and Jay, you guys still get the point. If it's Rikishi getting involved in the Bloodline Rules match, you still get the point. I only get it if Dustin shows up. Now, could he show up night 1 or night 2 for that match? Possibly. But highly unlikely.
Right.
So who
One
knows?
second here.
All right.
But yeah, that's our WrestleMania predictions. I guess for anybody watching and catching us, you can watch this podcast on Spotify and in YouTube, and you should be able to catch it on all of your streaming platforms, regardless of where you consume your audio adventures. For the three brothers, for the wrestling related podcast, we'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and don't forget to let us know how you did on your predictions.